Hey guys, welcome back to Great Reviews. My name is Chris, and today I checked out this new zombie post-apocalyptic movie called Die Alone. And this movie stars Carrie-Anne Moss and Frank Grillo, as well as Douglas Smith. And the movie follows Douglas as the character Ethan. He suffers from amnesia. He wakes from a car crash to discover a world in which there are zombies, and it is the post-apocalypse. And while he's suffering with amnesia, he is certain he needs to find his girlfriend. And along the way, he runs into Carrie-Anne Moss, who is a hardened survivor, and the movie is kind of told in a memento-like way, where it's sort of backwards with little vignettes of his flashbacks until everything is revealed by the end. So I think what this movie does well is it has a couple interesting things. The zombies themselves are kind of cool looking. They're kind of Last of Us inspired, in which case they have growths. They are more like tree-like, plants are growing off of them, but they don't look like your typical zombie. Unfortunately, there's very few sequences with actual zombies in the film. Because this is a much more character-driven movie about Ethan and Carrie-Anne Moss. And at times that works. I think by the end, the conclusion is satisfying, although I called it 30 minutes into the movie. And I'm not trying to brag or anything, because I don't usually think I can call the twists too well, but this one, I thought it was pretty obvious how much they were laying down, and then I was proven correct by the end, so it was a little bit disappointing, but still, I think it's a clever movie with a clever twist, and it does help show the character arc and explain the story in a more interesting way than just a typical zombie movie. I think the movie has a bad title and a generic poster, which makes you think of just a generic zombie film, and it's definitely not that. It does try some different and newer things to keep you interested. Overall, I think the production values feel kind of cheap at times, which is unfortunate. It feels like an episode of The Walking Dead style budget at times. The sets look cheap, the props look cheap, sometimes the zombies look very cheap, but other times they look pretty good. And it's weird because it's juxtaposed against a very kind of cheap feeling, but with experienced actor like Carrie-Anne Moss, whose performance is really great. You also have Frank Grillo, who is playing kind of the Frank Grillo guy. He doesn't have much range, but he's still good for the role. And then our lead, Douglas Smith, he reminds me of a young Tim Robbins. He's very emotional in his eyes and his facial expressions. It does seem kind of emo-y, whiny at times, but his character is going through a lot that is revealed later on, so it kind of makes sense. So I think the writing stumbles a bit at times with some clunky dialogue and things like that, as well as some forced dialogue that sounds a bit unnatural, I guess is what I would say. But for the most part, I was entertained by this thing. I think a lot of people might be disappointed if they come into this searching for something that is more of a straight zombie movie. This is more like that Arnold Schwarzenegger Maggie style movie or something along those lines, where the zombies are the backdrop, which unfortunately a lot of times now the zombies are the backdrop in things and not the focus. And I wish they were a little bit more of a focus in this movie, honestly, because they were kind of interesting with the way they looked and acted. And I was on the fence at first about the amnesia portion of the film being so interwoven through the plot because, I don't know, constant flashbacks. At first I was like, this is going to get annoying. But by the end, with the conclusion, I was satisfied with it. There's some cool gore sequences, nothing too crazy in this film. And at times, though, it does feel like there is some editing and music that kind of feels like they're making an action movie when they're really not. This is, for the most part, kind of a slower movie. And so just be aware that this is a zombie movie. It's slower paced, and it's about the characters. And you do have the tropes of the typical zombie post-apocalyptic thing now, where who should you really be afraid of, the zombies or the surviving people? So there is a bit of that element and some well-covered territory within that. But I think they were able to carve out a nice niche in this genre to find a new storyline that is fairly unique. This movie, like I'm saying, is The Last of Us mixed with a Walking Dead episode mixed with the movie Memento, but on a lower budget with some pretty strong performances, namely by Carrie-Anne Moss. So I wasn't bored. I enjoyed it for the most part. I think it could have been a bit better if it maybe budget was a little bit higher and the production quality was a little bit better, but it's not bad. It's just cheaper looking than I was expecting, I should say. So that's Die Alone. If you've seen it, let me know what you think. Let me know if there's anything I should be checking out. I know somebody said Oddity is a movie I should check out, and maybe I will here shortly. But leave a comment, leave a like, that helps out the channel, and I'll catch you here next time, guys. Goodbye.